Hey everyone, this is the first video of a new channel that I decided to start up. What I'll be doing is looking at fictional scenarios in the world and drawing on maps of my personal interpretation of what I think would happen. So for my first video, I'm going to be doing an idea that I'm really into, and it's if the US government were to fall apart, what would happen? This is under the assumption that all the states would then instantly gain independence and there would be no federal government throughout the entire former nation. The first thing I see happening is Russia sending troops to Alaska to annex it for the oil-rich territory. So they would likely start moving troops in at the southern bit, right around here, taking these islands, and they would make their move closer and closer to Anchorage. By the time they are at the gates of Anchorage, Alaska and their governor would be fully aware and would contact Canada about the situation. Then having Alaska join Canada as a new province in order to rejoin NATO. This attempt, though, would probably not succeed, and Russia would still continue moving in their troops anyways, until moving down towards closer and closer to the capital of Alaska, which is Juneau. Now, Russia would probably have little troops here, expecting it to be very easy. So once they do get down to Juneau, they'd probably be surprised by Canadian troops and even be pushed back a bit. However, more troops would soon arrive and take the rest of the Alaskan Panhandle, annexing the entire state. Russia would likely not move any further onto Canada. It would only be interested in taking the Alaskan state and turning it into a federal subject. One of the first nations we're going to see with the downfall of the US is an attempted recreation of the old United States, most likely led by Washington, D.C. Nearby states would likely join right away, such as Maryland, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. We would likely also see the region of New England also making a new nation. For this nation, we will be representing it as a different shade of blue. This would likely be led by New York, with the capital being Albany. New Jersey, very dependent on New York City. We'll likely also see all of these states also join. Some states are going to be weaker and are just not going to be able to function super properly on their own. So we're going to see the merging of some states, such as Vermont and New Hampshire. This would likely result in the creation of New Vermont, with the capital being located at Concord, the former capital of New Hampshire. We'd also likely see the merging of Connecticut and Rhode Island, with the new state capital being at Providence, which is a much more populated capital than that of Connecticut. We would also likely see the merging of the Dakotas. Both do not have a very high population nor much of an economy, so they're likely going to merge together, with Bismarck being the capital as it is much more populated. Hawaii would most certainly make its own nation. Hawaii is not going to be very important for this video. We're just going to call it the Republic of Hawaii, and it will be composed of all the Hawaiian Islands. Over in the west, California is one of the strongest nations in terms of both economy and military strength, so we're going to see them being a very important state in the creation of what we're going to call the West Coast Republic, which is going to be comprised of these 4 states, with the capital being Sacramento, California. Texas is another state with a very good economy and a lot of military potential. So we're going to see Texas making the Republic of Texas alongside Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Down in the south, we're going to see Florida also making a new nation called the Southern Republic alongside the nations of Georgia, the Carolinas, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Illinois is another state that has a very good economy, and so we would likely see them also creating a new nation. This we're going to call the Midwest Republic. It will be comprised of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and Missouri. Also, I forgot to mention this, but Florida also has a very good economy and military, and the capital of the Southern Republic would most likely be located in Tallahassee. So here we have our 6 nations who are going to be starting out the new United States. I'm going to move on to phase 2 of the situation, which is conflict. So the USA is most likely going to declare that all states in the region must rejoin the United States. New England being so close to the US and also sharing a lot of political ideologies, they're going to support the USA but not instantly join the USA. Everyone has their reasons for wanting to be somewhat independent. The West Coast Republic, because they believe they can do things better than the USA. The South would likely think that the US fell for a reason, and that's why they should make a new country. The Midwest, mainly because we have the Appalachian Mountains located right here. Located right here, which would separate the Midwest from the Union. One of the first events we're going to see take place is the Midwest, the Texas, and the West Coast are going to be annexing all this ununionized lands. So we're going to see the West Coast Republic annexing a lot of Idaho and Utah and Arizona. We would see the states of Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Arizona all being annexed by the West Coast. Meanwhile, the states of Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and Wyoming are all going to be annexed by the Midwest. Most of these states would just instantly be joining. There wouldn't be much resistance, so it'd be quite easy for everyone. We're also going to see New Mexico and Colorado being annexed / joining the Republic of Texas. In phase 3, there's going to be war. The USA is going to declare war on all other nations, rebellious nations, and will have support of the New England Republic. They'll also be specifically attacking the Southern Republic, and as stated earlier, there is the Appalachian Mountains located right here, so they're not going to be able to attack the Midwest right away. We're going to see them attacking North Carolina. This is going to be tough since North Carolina does have one of the strongest militaries in the United States. However, Virginia has a lot of naval bases, which is going to make it very easy to take over the coastline. We're going to see the Midwest and Texas giving a lot of support to the Southern Republic, which is going to allow for an attack located along West Virginia and Pennsylvania. We're also going to see a lot of push in the Great Lakes to cut off as many ports as possible. We're going to see a pushback from North Carolina into Virginia, mainly along the inland, where Virginia would have difficulty in the Appalachian Mountains, and make a push for the capital of Virginia. However, Virginia would likely have a lot of naval dominance in the area and continue to push through the coast, maybe perhaps even reaching a little bit of South Carolina. They'd be setting up a defense line along the coast, trying to control as much of it as possible. This is going to make it very difficult for North Carolina to fight if they don't have any coastline, as you can see here. The West Coast, Midwest, Texas, and Southern Republic would most likely agree to an economic and military alliance and border agreement between all of them. They would all see the United States as a threat to all of them, and they would agree to an alliance which would be called the West American Alliance. So along with open borders, these are some of the changes that are going to happen in the West. First off, Montana is going to be joining the Midwest because of the location of the Rocky Mountains and Montana's political ideologies fitting more with the rest of the Midwest. Now, Colorado and New Mexico are cut right in half due to the Rocky Mountains. So we're going to see these two states actually divided amongst the Republic of Texas and the West Coast Republic, following a border similar to this. Now, the border could obviously be way different of this. It could be anything. It could even be straight up and down. But we're just going to have it like this because it I honestly think it just looks the best. It doesn't matter what too much these states are called, they're not going to be involved in a whole lot anyways. All you need to know is that these states are broken apart to go to each respective nation. We would also see a non-aggression pact being made and a defense pact between all of these nations, meaning that the West Coast Republic would be giving its support to the Southern Republic in the war against the USA. Going back to that war, we're now going to be focusing on what's happening. Once the New England Republic gets more involved, we're going to see a pushback from them. They'll reclaim a lot of their coastline, and also push into Ohio, trying to take the rest of the coastline, but likely fail in collecting all of it. we're going to see, because of the Appalachian Mountains, Ohio is going to have a lot of success in pushing Pennsylvania troops all the way to the Appalachian Mountains, which brings them to right about here. They also have a lot of success in going through most of West Virginia to about here. Meanwhile, troops in the south, backed up by foreign allies, are going to have a very easy time taking land from Virginia. As troops move back from the shores to defend Virginia and the rest of the Union, we're going to see a lot of this land being taken back as the armies have been weakened. Troops will then continue going northward, taking the capital of Virginia, as well as some of their naval bases. As they push further and further, also taking a lot of West Virginia, we're going to see the surrendering of West Virginia. Troops would then go further and further up north into Virginia until eventually Virginia also surrendered. Troops from the Midwest would continue their push all the way up to about here where the Appalachian Mountains start to get very rough and have a lot of difficulty in moving even further. However, they will have a lot of success in retaking Ohio and even pushing back New York into New York territory, taking a lot of this coastline, now supported by the West Coast. We're then going to see, now with naval bases lost from Virginia, we're going to find it very easy for the West American Alliance to take a lot of this coastline, like so. They'll also make a push into Washington, D.C., and in the bloodiest battle of the war, however, it will be a very swift victory for the Western Alliance, taking a lot of land from Maryland until both Maryland and Delaware would surrender. At this point, the rest of Pennsylvania would be forced to surrender as well, and New England would not try to continue this fight, meaning they would also all surrender. We're now going to look at the aftermath of the war and what happened, and what would most likely happen is the United States would recognize that they lost the war and they're not going to be able to unite the entire region. However, I believe that the Western Alliance would allow for New England and the Union to join the alliance in creating what I would like to call the All-American Alliance. Not many border changes will take place, except for down here. With the panhandle of West Virginia, which is going to be cut like so, and then given to Ohio. And that's going to be it for what would happen to the United States if the US government fell. All these nations would likely end up becoming allies, and they would work together to prosper a lot. Their alliance would probably work a lot similarly to the EU, and they would probably even try to rejoin NATO. There are a lot of interesting interpretations that I think could take place. This is just my own personal, and it's just for purely entertainment purposes. This is all to be taken with a grain of salt. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.